You have sold a watch online and now your job is to ship it properly. Watch this video to learn the most common mistakes to avoid loss, theft and legal trouble. Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode we speak about shipping watches, how to ship a watch as a private seller. And I have quite a bit of experience in this field because I think I've shipped hundreds of watches and I did every single mistake you can imagine, and this is good for you because you don't have to copy me that way. So the structure of this video is very simple. We speak first about the basic terms and conditions because there are the big major mistakes. Then we will speak about certain risks and at the end how to avoid these risks or to minimize them, let's say. And then a little addition, a little foray, what does the police do when something goes wrong? So first case, very simple, you are the private seller and you want to ship that watch to the next town in your country, okay? Domestic service, nothing complicated. And the first thing you must do to avoid the most common mistake, you should read the terms and conditions of the carrier to find out if you are entitled to ship the watch that way. And of course, in most cases, the answer will be no, you're not. People are often really astonished when they hear about that, but it's true, it's a fact. Nearly every carrier in nearly every country excludes certain goods from the regular service. For example, gold, diamonds, jewelry, stocks, so physical stocks without your name on the paper, or watches, you name it. Expensive wristwatches. And some of these high value goods are excluded 100%. So in certain areas, in certain countries, you're not allowed to ship, for example, gold with your national carrier with a regular postal service. For other goods, we have limits. So for example, Germany, DHL, the limit is 500 euros. You can't ship a watch with DHL within Germany when the price for the piece is not higher than 500 euros. But everything that is above 500 euros is excluded from that service. I mean, you can ship this expensive watch despite these rules laid down in the terms and conditions because nobody knows what's in your parcel. But in case of theft, of loss, of damages, the insurance company simply will refuse to give you a single euro for the piece. That's the big problem here. And many people really refuse to believe this, but you don't have to believe anything. Go into the terms and conditions of your carrier and you will find it black on white that certain goods are excluded from the regular service or excluded in total, or they have very strict limits. And people now react to that with additional services, because when you are online and you want to buy a parcel stamp, you type in the addresses and everything, and then you can add additional services like an extra insurance. Many carriers offer that. So for example, you can add an insurance over 1,000 euros, for example, will cost you about 14 bucks. And it's completely worthless in case of diamonds, gold, stocks, jewelry and wristwatches because these goods are excluded in the first place. So you cannot buy an insurance for a good that shouldn't be in the parcel. And so these 2 points are the main mistakes when you ship watches. It's every day people make this mistake, shipping watches when it's not allowed to have that watch in that kind of parcel, with that kind of courier, with that kind of service, or they buy very expensive insurances for goods that weren't allowed in the parcel in the first place. And this applies worldwide. So you can find these terms and conditions for USPS, Royal Mail, the French Post. Every single country has terms and conditions regarding these topics, regarding the limit between the regular good and high value goods. Next case, you are a private seller again, but now you have to ship the watch over a border or even to another continent. And the funny thing is, often now it's possible to ship a watch with the carrier, and the carrier doesn't allow this service domestically, but internationally over borders it is allowed to ship an expensive wristwatch, and often yes, you can then buy an insurance for it. This is of course counterintuitive, and it was explained to me with lower risks in the international service. This is super counterintuitive. Normally you think the longer the parcel goes, that the bigger the risk, but it's the opposite. And the explanation is domestic services, there are more people involved, and over borders than you have, for example, in airport. The parcel goes through an airport, highly controlled circumstances, highly controlled environment. They actually film the parcel. They they put it on a scale, etc., etc. And so the risk is somewhat minimized in comparison to the domestic service. But again, you have to read the terms and conditions of your carrier. So in most cases, they have their domestic terms and conditions and the international terms and conditions. And you must read them, okay? You must be sure. Good news is you have to do it once, or let's say every 6 months. Sometimes they have a bit of alteration there, but not drastically. And so these terms and conditions are the reason why you find in almost every country specialized carriers for high value goods. And that's exactly your job then, to Google high value shipping in your country and choose the company that can handle it. Okay, these were the terms and conditions, and now we speak about certain risks. And risk number one here is the damage. The damaged parcel. I think we all have seen this, and sometimes parcels are drastically damaged. I had parcels where you could actually see the watch box inside, and very often I thought, wow, that's risky. Is there still a watch inside? It always went well, but of course this is very, very common. And unfortunately, there is not so much you can do against that. Of course, you should pack your parcels properly, of course, yes, but then they deliver that dry cleaner or that washing machine on top of your little parcel, and then of course you have a big problem. But what you can do, and what I see is often done wrong, is that the parcel is not well packed. What I mean by that is the watch inside shouldn't shake around. I mean, it's common sense, it's basic logic, but sometimes we really receive parcels where the watch is flipping around inside, and that's of course not good. Imagine the parcel flies through the air, which happens from time to time, and inside the parcel is the watch, and then the parcel and the watch hit the floor or the wall at the same time. Watch broken, big trouble. And so make sure that the watch is packed neatly into that parcel without any space. You can use paper, you can use rubber foil or whatever you want, but that's very important that you don't have that rattly mess inside a parcel. And a little addition to that, sometimes you also can read in the tracking the parcel was damaged. I had this in recent days more and more, that you read in the tracking really your parcel was damaged or is damaged and will be repacked. And then most people freak out because they think, all right, that's the point. That's the moment where somebody steals my watch, and I never had a problem with that. And my theory is a bit of speculation, but my theory is that repackaging is a highly controlled process, and it's extremely stupid when somebody repacks a parcel and after that the watch is gone. I mean, this is super obvious and it's super easy done to narrow down the number of suspects. So my experience with this repackaging service is 100% good. It actually works. And so when you read something like that in the tracking, don't freak out. In most cases, everything will be fine. So this was the most common risk, and our next one has a very bad reputation, and actually people think this is the most common risk, and this is of course the lost parcel. Many people think that we have a high percentage of lost parcel, especially when you have a shipping over borders. Experts estimate that fewer than 0.1% of all parcels get lost. And they say even this number is probably too high, because the majority of lost parcels are delays. Because imagine the following scenario: we have a 2-week delay with a parcel, okay? So the recipient is angry, and you then have to call DHL, and DHL will start an investigation after that. And you can use the name of other shipping companies here. The process is very similar. They start an investigation, they try to find your parcel. And when they cannot manage to find it in another 2 weeks, very often they just give you the insurance money without further investigation of the case. They just give you the money, shut up, take the money, problem solved, because for the shipping company this is just cheaper than doing investigations all over the globe. So you will get your money. And very often then, after another 2, 4 or 6 weeks, the parcel actually arrives, but nobody will tell DHL. Of course, as the recipient has the duty, the obligation to report that parcel, and the shipper has to give back the insurance money, in fact, at least in many cases. And of course, people don't do that. They will just grab the parcel, tell nobody, and that's the reason for these stories of lost parcels. The actual parcel that is lost is more likely a damaged parcel, or as said, 0.1%. And again, experts see this number as rather high. Third risk is the stolen parcel or the stolen content, and I had this quite some times. This really happens, and it's very often at the last mile or during the last mile, then the delivery guy steals your parcel or the content of your parcel. Okay, and now we come to the third part of this video, how to minimize these risks. I've already explained against damages you cannot do so much. You can only make sure that the parcel is neatly packed and nothing is rattling around inside. Against a lost parcel, you can do a lot, and this starts with a proper parcel stamp with a correct address, because lost parcels are caused by delays, and delays are often, very often caused by a little mistake on the parcel. So the zip code is not complete because you copy, paste and copy, or copy and paste the zip code into the form, into the DHL form, and then you forget one number. Very common mistakes. Or you ship the watch to a country where the house has a name. In Ireland, for example. Or you ship to Hong Kong, where you have to properly specify the building, the floor, the apartment number, and all this stuff, because you have these large buildings there. Because what you want to avoid is that the delivery guy shows up, doesn't find the recipient, and drives back to the depot, and then your parcel sits in the depot for days, then somebody calls in sick and the entire mess is starting. And so you have to make sure that every information on the parcel is correct. And a nice method is, when you're a bit in doubt, Google that address with Google Maps, for example. Not the name of the recipient. Obviously, only the street, the zip code, the country, if everything lines up. And you must be specific as possible. So it's a good idea to write Austria/Europe, because otherwise they will ship from time to time, your package to Australia. This happens to me, this happened to a lot of other people. It's reality. So be as specific as possible. Take your time to write every bit of information on that parcel. Very important. Last case, how to minimize the risk of theft. Imagine a parcel, very neatly, very clean, very neutral, 100% neutral, very lightweight. Every idiot can figure, especially when there's a special service, special delivery service booked, every idiot can figure that there's something really valuable inside of that parcel. So it's a good idea, or not the baddest idea, to use a parcel that was already in use 1 or 2 times, so that it looks a bit shabby. Or when you ship a watch without box and papers, it might be a good idea to add an old book. I did this in fact very often, that I store the watch together with an old book into the parcel, and then I write, of course, to the buyer, very sorry, I just added that book to add weight. You don't have to read it, you can throw it away, but the parcel has another weight, another look with that when you have a used parcel, and so it doesn't look so obvious that there's something valuable inside. But little caveat, from time to time we want a good looking and clean parcel. Sometimes it's just not appropriate to deliver something in a shabby looking parcel, correct? And then I have a good tip for you. You can buy boxes with that zipper type of thing. I don't know the technical term for that, but you've seen that, where you have to remove large parts of the parcel to open it, because then it's impossible for the delivery guy just to slit it open on the underside, for example, take the watch out and reseal it like that, okay? It's very obvious, and as explained, they film parcels. And when it's obvious that the parcel was opened, then it's very risky for all these people involved. Or the recipient sees at first glance that the parcel was opened and then he refuses to take it. Again, a very large problem then for the delivery guy. And so I actually heard from manufacturers that this minimizes the risk of theft when you can open the parcel only by removing parts of it. And the next tip to minimize theft is, of course, to take images of the parcel, because when the parcel was open, often you can see that, and often insurance companies ask for images, so take images. And the last tip, how to minimize the risk of theft, is don't ship an expensive watch around Christmas. This is a very risky time, because shipping companies are short of people and then they hire somebody. And I think certain criminal groups have learned that it's very lucrative to take that job around Christmas. Then you steal some watches and then you quit again. And so all my 3 watches that were stolen around Christmas. So just wait 2 weeks longer into the new year, and then you can ship your watch with a lower risk. And now the little foray around the police. What will the police do when they are confronted with a stolen watch? You report a stolen watch to the police. What will they do? And I can speak from experience again, they will do nothing. They will do absolutely nothing. They will write you a letter. After a year, we tried our utmost best to find the suspect, but we couldn't find him or her, and so we will just close the case. And there are even reports when somebody tracks a stolen watch and locates it in a city or even in a building, let's say with 12 parties, and calls the police. The police will do nothing, absolutely nothing. And there's some logic to it, because they cannot just kick in 12 doors, search the entire building for your watch, and after that they have 11 lawsuits by parties that aren't involved in that form of crime, so they will do nothing. And this leads to our last point: don't ship the watch without an insurance, because now you are able to do it the right way. You can read terms and conditions, and you can find out which shipping company for this watch, and then you of course can legally buy an insurance for that, and then you're safe against loss, against damage, and other things that might happen, and you just sleep well. It's just better for a private seller that you keep your mind out of that stress zone that is around a watch and a parcel without any form of insurance. All right, and that's all I wanted to share with you around shipping watches. But as always, when you have additional information, if you have ideas, questions, hints, and tips and tricks, put it all in the comment section, then we can learn something from you. And please visit casebackwatches.com, the online shop that keeps everything here afloat and independent. There you find nice watch straps or belts or wallets or other fine leather products. Okay, and that's all for this episode. Thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.